Yo, what up, people? It is beginning to look a lot like Christmas, right? And of course it is because, we haven't been on here for the last 2 weeks. But today we're here to catch up on what's been going on. So let's get started with what we're going to call our pre-Christmas Wayne.
Oh, my bad. I forgot it's on me.
Hey,
We got a different show intro today, so I'm messing this up.
I want to hear some nice Christmas intro music this time.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trifling here, so here we go.
I wish that I could rewind, but we still got right now, toast to the Savior. Mama said he came into my mess like a manger. Falling for the curves, I was foul to the changer. With no homie, brought me home and out the bucket's major. So keep going, it ain't over. His love brings us closer. Oh, come and adore the new life.
Yeah, man, I love that. That's my boy Tadashi right there. Come let us adore him. Anyway, I want to say welcome, guys. Welcome to the December 15th edition of the WayneCarlen Show. And, like I said before, we've been on hiatus for a couple of weeks, and I've been doing a lot of work in my girls' apartment, and they're all at my house right now. My house is a mess. So I'm broadcasting from the dojo today. As you can see the background, this is a Black Belt Academy. So anyway, we're excited. 2021, man, this seemed to have shot by. And I remember in 2020, we were all, come on, 2021, and then it didn't turn out the way a lot of people hoped. So I don't know. Are you guys still excited about 2022? I think somebody out there is trying to teach us some patience. It seems that way anyway. We do all need to learn a little bit of patience. So nevertheless, we're back here and we've got the same aim, and that's just bringing unity. That's our big deal here. We want to bring unity to the game. And just so you remember, I'm Wayne, and I'm coming all the way from the West Coast of California.
And I'm Carlin, and I'm coming to you from Texas. No mask, no mandate, no nothing, except some nice warm temperatures right now.
Well, on that note, today, our governor just instituted a statewide mask mandate for 30 days. Here in my city, we still had it, but statewide now in all counties.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's not Texas. Yeah. Hey, we're glad to be back with you all 2 weeks. We were out, and I'm back with my boy Wayne. So that's pretty good because I can't do the Carlin show. It's the WayneCarlen show. So the Carlin show didn't work. But we're back. And last week I wanted to cover the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, which was, that was the December 7th, but we were on the December 8th was the date of the show. I was going to talk about that. But we will pass that on because that happened. But just wanted to remind you all of that. That was a great memory. And matter of fact, so I wanted to pose, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you last week, Wayne, and we got about a few seconds for you to talk about it this week. But do you think we have anything in our country today that could unify us? Because I thought about Pearl Harbor and what happened in World War II, how we came together. Then I thought about 9/11, how we came together. And do we have anything like that you think could happen in our country to unify us that way today?
Man, sadly, it seems like it takes tragedy for that to happen. You talked about Pearl Harbor. We all know about 9/11. And even the fact that we're in a pandemic right now, that hasn't unified us. It seems to have separated us more. So, I don't want any kind of major tragedy, but you're right, though. We do need something that's going to unify us as a nation again.
All right. So a lot of good stuff we could talk about. We could talk about that forever, trying to figure out how we can do that, because that's what unity work is about. But we got a lot to cover in our show today, and it's going to go by really fast. We always call this the fastest 30 minutes on the internet. That's why I'm talking so fast, and it's going to happen. So let's go ahead and kick it off by telling them what we got on tap for the show today.
Well, here in our lineup, we got to talk about sports. We had a major event last night we'll talk about in a second. Of course, we're going to do our pandemic update, talk a little bit about the tornadoes that occurred recently out on the East and Midwest. Jussie Smollett, that just came, the court just ended. Another Cuomo takes a big hit. Man, these brothers in trouble. Michigan school shooting. And then, of course, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, taking on the whole Roe via Mississippi issue. Then, very important, talk about our lessons in leadership. And we're going to talk about loyalty today. And then, of course, our GoFundMe. So talk about how you can support the cause right now. So let's get moving. That was on me. Last night, if you're not aware, my boy, I say my boy because he's been playing his whole career out here in my backyard.
Your son, Curry, yeah, young as he is.
Yeah. Stephen Wardell Curry passed.
You really, your boy got middle names and stuff. You really know him.
Oh, of course, of course. I have his draft signing, personal sign photograph.
Oh, wow.
It's locked away in my safe, so don't try to rob me, y'all. The Golden State superstar, you can see, passed Ray Allen on the all-time three-pointer list. You know, I don't know if you saw it, but it was amazing. After he made the shot, they called timeout. One of the teams called timeout. And they took about, it seemed like it was about 10 minutes of congratulations, standing ovation. Ray Allen, Reggie Miller were there. They both gave him hugs. His dad came out on the floor. This is during the game. Gave him a hug.
What quarter were they in when that happened? What
first quarter, 5 minutes into the first quarter. So it just happened. He made two. He had to make one to tie and the second one to pass. And he did that in the first 4 minutes of the game. And it was just an amazing situation. I posted on Facebook. I actually had a little tear in my eye. And the reason I say that is, if you guys know the story of Stephen Curry, when he was in high school, he was a great shooter then, you know, in high school, but he wasn't highly recruited because he was so small. He probably weighed $150 at that time. And so some small college called Davidson gave him a scholarship, and he was really sad, you know, but then he went on to become a great player at Davidson. But of course, the NBA initially, all the scouts thought, oh, he's too little, he's too frail, he's a good shooter, but he'll never make it in the NBA. So he kept getting all of these bad reports and all of this stuff. Well, he did get drafted by the Golden State Warriors, my home team. And of course, the rest is history. So just a great person. More than that, he's a man of God, loves his family, loves his wife, his children, does great philanthropy out here in the Bay Area. So I'm just proud of him as a young man, as a godly man, for what he's doing. And I know he's still got a lot more left to do.
How long do people, NBA careers last till what age?
You know, typically an NBA career, well, the majority of them are 4 and 5 years. But the superstars like Steph and others who don't get injured, they can play. Even Jordan played till he was, 35, 36, but then he was done. Wow. Kobe played till he was 39. You know, some of them make it 40. Kareem played till he was 40. So, but most of them play into their mid-20s, late 20s, some into their mid-30s. Chris Paul right now, he's 36, and he's still doing really good. So it just depends on how they take care of their body.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So great event last night. Moving on to the NFL, you know, really the only thing to talk about right now is we're in week 13. Is there are 8 NFL teams today that are in COVID, what they call enhanced protocols. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, other than the fact that they can't practice and they may not be able to play on Sunday as it stands right now. So they're doing all their practices and meetings via Zoom or whatever media they use. So a lot of stuff going on, you know, as far as that goes. We'll see what happens by Sunday. And I guess Roger Goodell said there'll be no makeup games. So whatever team is in COVID protocols, if they can't play, they forfeit that game.
Wow. Now, because the Cowboys had their COVID earlier in the season. You know, matter of fact, their coach was out 2 weeks ago. You know, he was out with it, and he's back now on the sidelines, and some of the players. So, well, that's kind of amazing, though, that they've got that, because if they're playoff teams, I mean, yeah, they're just out because of COVID, huh?
Yeah, and that I take it as a loss. So, oof, man, this is an interesting time. And again, I don't know if it's Omicron or Delta, or whatever it is, because we all will talk about that in a minute. But Omicron is supposed to be very mild symptoms, but I guess they're just taking precautions anyway.
All right. Well, you got any status on the games? San Francisco, what they do? Hey, I can only speak for the Cowboys. You know, I saw.
Yeah, I mean, so both our teams won this weekend. We pulled out a squeaker against Cincinnati in overtime. That was bad. It should have been a blowout. Your team did really good as far as numbers anyway. So, hey, all I care about is that we make the playoffs and get to play against Dallas.
Yeah, well, if that happens, then y'all be ready to take the L from Dallas. So, all right. Hey, well, speaking of football, there is this one story that I do want to cover that I think is somewhat tragic, but I think I want to cover it for more reasons than just how tragic the story is. But this is a story of a former NFL player. His name was Philip Adams. You might remember when this story hit last year. He was in South Carolina. He was a former player. He not only did he take the lives of six, I think he was, took the lives of six, but then he took his own life afterwards. And so they did it, of course, an autopsy afterwards, and they checked his brain, and they identified that his brain, that he had what's called CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. All right, CTE, sure. That's why they call it CTE. Nobody wants to say that word a few times. All right, but in both frontal lobes of his brain, he had this thing, and they said that in 99% of the brains from deceased NFL players, they find that in 99% of the deceased players, and that's, of course, we're only talking about the ones where they have reason to go and do an autopsy. So we're not talking about people who die of natural causes. Like if a former football player died at 80, then they probably don't go in and look for that. But those who are dying early, such as in a situation such as Mr. Adams here, that's what they do. And they find that in 99%. And so I'm looking at the CTE thing, and I'm really kind of frustrated with the NFL that you're making billions and billions of dollars a year, and you're not investing millions and millions of dollars at least in research so that we can fix this. Because I mean, at some point you've got to make a statement and say that, hey, we can't allow this to continue to happen. Now everybody would say, yeah, but this only happens to a small percentage. But think about the small percentage. This one guy killed 6 and then himself. I mean, are we really saying that's allowable for any industry, that you would have that? Yeah, things happen, but when you know a direct cause, I mean, this is something where we can see a direct cause. This is causing this traumatic brain injury, and we have something like that. We got to get it fixed, or we've got to fix what's causing it. So NFL, either you're going to have to take action and say, we are not going to do this. And I hate, you got this reputation, and I played college football and took a lot of blows to the head. I said, but if you so upset about changing your sport and being viewed as soft rather than keeping people alive, well, that's a big decision you got to make, because they might say, well, no more head blows, no more helmet contact at all. You can only grab with your arms. You can't hit with your helmet in any form, which they try to do. They try to move a little bit that way, but you're going to make some really big changes to prevent this, because you're talking about we're talking about real lives now, because this is the same thing. If you remember Aaron Hernandez, former tight end, he committed suicide, and he had the same issue in his brain. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, knowing the fact that you did play. I remember, head-on collisions used to be common, and now if you do it, it's illegal. Do you think? Well, I don't know how recent this young man is, but do you think that's going to help just by making those basic changes?
Well, and we've got a lot of changes to make. You remember the movie Will Smith played in Concussion? They were talking about it then. And yes. I thought then that we would get a little more visibility, and that we would at least have technology. Because my thought is that technology should be able to resolve some of these issues. I mean, we got airbags in cars, I mean, and things like that. That kind of technology is kind of the same, some of the stuff we still need to ensure that we can cushion our brains and make sure that we're not getting them knocking around inside of our skull. If we can't, then we got to think about how much we want to continue doing this sport this way.
Wow.
And so, yeah, because I had enough concussions, and I can tell you, sometimes when I'm very forgetful, then I go, oh, brother, here he goes, and I think about that because I think way too many concussions, and so I think about that often. Matter of fact, I'm a part of that study that they're doing for college football players. I'm part of that study thing. Yeah. So
interesting.
All right, but that's kind of a lot of our sports stuff. And I said we would be probably 15 minutes in. We're actually 16 minutes in before we even get to our pandemic update. But let's go and let me check out the pandemic update. Let's see what's happening. Because as we talk about this, we got lots of things. While we're talking about pandemic update, I'm also going to talk about what's happening regarding the pandemic in some of these places. Like, for instance, New York. where Mayor de Blasio is really coming out with some strange rules. But first, let's go ahead and look at our numbers here. And whenever this shows up, that number is always yesterday. So that means December 14th was 113,000 cases. And you see where 113,000 cases sits, back when we had peaks there, we were at twice that much. When we had peaks back in September of just this year, we had twice as much, and those were the peaks. And so we're still not at quite those peaks, but neither are we at the troughs when we were down here, which was middle of just last month. Actually in October, we were at 16,000. So you see some very lows there, very lows. And you see, if you look at the diagram, the solid red line means that looks like we're plateauing. Whereas you have valleys and peaks over here. Here you got a line that's almost straight across. And so we're kind of plateauing. Hopefully that portends for a good future where we're maybe headed to a decline. I didn't even look at the deaths earlier. Let's look at deaths. Deaths is pretty much doing the same thing. You see the straight line plateauing, which is good. From our recent peaks up here, when we were getting up to 3,000 deaths a day. And so we're kind of down here now at numbers probably more like 700, 800 or 1,000 deaths a day, which is good direction. But the key thing is, I think that a lot of people are saying now is we basically are going to have to learn how we're going to live with this. And people kind of hate the reality of that statement, but that's kind of really what we're actually trying to do, find out how we live with it.
Right.
So let's talk about some of the initiatives some of the people have. Of course, I'm in Texas, and Texas has kind of been one of those states that said, we're not quite as extreme. I think Florida is probably the number one state on saying we're bucking everything that the government says. We're doing our own thing in Florida. And for all of that Florida's doing, for what Texas is doing, for what New York and California are doing, I've been making this statement for the last 6 months, is that regardless, it follows the numbers. If you've got more population, then you've got more cases. If you got more population, you got more deaths. And that works as true for the first 5 states for sure. And they've all had different methods of trying to fix it, but the same thing, the results are pretty much the same along population lines. All right. But this is when Mayor de Blasio announces this mandate for private sector workers, which is huge, because if you remember, President Biden was trying to do the same thing on a federal level. And of course, the courts rebuffed him and said, no, you can't do that. However, states have different rights. And so he's doing it on this local level. And so we'll see how that works out. But look at some of these rules there. If you're age 5 to 11, you've got to show proof of a vaccine if you want to dine indoors or work out or go to movies. If you're age 5 to 11, you got to have a vaccine card. I mean, that's reaching, and if you're over 12, you have to show that you've had 2 vaccines. So the standard, this is like the hardest got to be of anybody in the country. You've got to show proof to go out to eat, to go to the movies, for all these things. And of course, Wayne, you can give us the down on this, because you say it's up to the counties to exercise some of this. What's the story?
Well, yeah, out here in my county, after things changed earlier in the year, we lifted there's no vaccine mandate, and we lifted the mask mandate. However, certain cities then decided, and I'm living in one of them, Vallejo, and the one next door, Benicia, decided to have an indoor mask mandate, but none of them have a vaccine mandate. County across the bridge in the next water, it's called Contra Costa County, and San Francisco County as well, they do have both a indoor mask mandate and a vaccine mandate. So I have not been talking about my Warriors. I'm a true blue Warriors fan. I haven't, going to a game, they're making it very hard for people to go to games this year. So it's a challenge. The state of California today instituted a new 30-day indoor mask mandate. And basically it's saying not because the numbers are going up or anything, but because of the season, people are going to be indoors. The hope is that wearing the masks for the next 30 days will stop the spike from happening. So we'll see. We'll see if that works. Hey, we've been wearing our mask here anyway, so it's okay with me. So there's some people probably upset about it, but we'll see hopefully it works though.
All right, well, yeah. So a lot to be left to see what happens there. Okay, and some of the news that we've been missing, of course, while we've been out, everybody knows about the tragic tornadoes that happened and this happened in over, they said 8 states, and there were over 34 tornadoes in 8 states. And right now, as far as most of these numbers are from Kentucky, they say there are more than 74 dead and more than 100 still accounted for. And that's just in Kentucky. And so officials are still struggling to count the dead because they said there's so much damage and so much rubble that they've got to dig through, because they're expecting that there might be more bodies underneath there, because they still have a large number of people unaccounted for in some of these states, especially Kentucky. So a lot of prayers for the people in the devastation there. I've got a daughter who lives in Tennessee, and the tornado bypassed them because she said within 5 miles, so there was some damage that was pretty bad near there, near outside of Nashville. So
yeah, we have a fraternity brother who's from out here. He went to school out here in Berkeley, but he's actually from Kentucky. The town where the most people were killed, he's from that town, and he still has relatives there. He didn't lose any relatives, but he was just asking for prayer because of the devastation.
Yeah. No, first thing I was thinking about was how I could load up my van, what I could do, what kind of tools I could take, go do some work and say, honey, I'll be back in a couple of weeks to drive over there. Cause I'm that type of guy who's like, man, I could go some kind of way. I got to be of help. I don't want to be in the way though. Cause you could go over there and get in the way as well, but I definitely feel the call to help.
I don't even know how, I used to work for FEMA for a few years. I don't even know how they begin to, just looking at that top picture there. That's done by a tornado. That's amazing. That's incredible.
Definitely heavy equipment. We know for sure. When you look at that, heavy equipment for sure. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's go. Let's go. And while we were out, of course, the last 2 weeks, they returned the verdict on the Smollett trial. And so that happened. And so we missed that. But while we were gone, then the further developments, everybody wanted to know the aftermath and kind of like what were they going to do? Because remember, Black Lives Matter and some of the other organizations before the verdict were saying, we're talking about injustice and it's wrong, and whatever they do, that we're not going to believe them, whatever they say, and everybody was kind of skeptical. Wait, what do you mean? All right, we're waiting on the verdict. We think that they will be just in this case, and so he was found guilty. And then, of course, after that happened, then you had statements. One of the statements came from one of the jurors, and one of the jurors made a statement and said that they just simply couldn't buy his claims of the noose. And he said that stuff just didn't add up. And he was the one quote unquote Black juror who was saying this. He was saying they are all unanimous in that, this just didn't add up. And this is what everybody kind of thought from the very beginning. Surely some people were hesitant to say it, but we kind of all knew. I mean, I hate to say it, it's kind of like O.J. Simpson. Yeah, we all knew, regardless of what they say, we all knew.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's just amazing. Here's a guy who, according to a lot of people, he's doing really well. He's a TV star, maybe future as a movie star, but just feels the need to do something to impact his career and does something really dumb and stupid, and he'll be lucky if he works again.
Yeah. Because he was on Empire's, highly touted show, and nothing's ever enough for people who are reaching and trying to be the next big thing. I want to be bigger than I am. And so this can get us wherever we are. So I think it's something for all of us, regardless where we are, to, walk in humility wherever we are, because we can always think that we can be something better, bigger. And,
Wow. That's really going to tie into your next talk.
Because let me go back here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, and I said that I had the Cuomo brothers here, but the most recent news, of course, is the fact that CNN actually just terminated Chris Cuomo, and that happened, of course, last Saturday, and they made it effective immediately. And that happened because of some information from an outside law firm that was retained to review the information about exactly how Chris Cuomo aided his brother, the former New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, when the governor was accused of sexual harassment. And anybody would think that your brother is, of course, with someone who has a public job such as Chris had there on the network, is going to try to help because you're a brother. You're going to try to help. But evidently, the help went beyond just trying to be helpful to my brother into maybe enabling some of the behavior. And I think that's what the problem was. And CNN did not hesitate, and they simply terminated.
Hey, that's amazing to me, because Chris Cuomo, he's one of their top, shows, 10 p.m. slot. But, a lot of people stay up late to watch it. right after Anderson Cooper. He's doing a lot of great things, a lot of great interviews on the show. And, I kind of liked him because sometimes he was kind of fair, both ways. It depends on what the topic was. But,
true.
he didn't like, when the former president, he didn't like him at all. And I agree with him on that too. But yeah, for him to be at the top of the mountain, just a couple weeks ago, and now where do you land, sir? Where do you fall? Because of making bad decisions. And although it was family, and I get that, sometimes we make that bad decisions when it come to family. It's just a bad spot to be in right now.
Yeah. So and I like you. I like some of the things he did, but one of the other things CNN I was looking out for because Don Lemon was evidently supporting Jussie Smollett and there was allegations that he was tipping Smollett off on what they were investigating. And so there was a time there just a few days ago when everybody was concerned, what are they going to do with Don Lemon? Because he seems to be involved with Jussie Smollett and was aiding him in the police investigation. So
if that's true, I mean, they're going to have to do something because of what they did with Chris.
Yeah. And it's just so ironic that all the things that they accuse that CNN is normally beating people up about, they're having to deal with within their organization. That's amazing. All the stuff they're reporting on and they weigh in on these things, whether it's the race angle or this thing. Yeah, y'all are having to deal with that yourselves. So pretty interesting.
Right.
All right. Let's go to what's happening here in Michigan. All right. Everybody knows about this. Is something else that happened while we were out that was in Michigan. And everybody knows about that school shooting that happened. And in the school shooting, there were, I got to remember, Wayne, you remember how many were killed?
I believe it was 5. Wait.
Okay. Yeah, I can't
remember
the exact number that were killed. Maybe 6. Yeah, maybe it was 6. But here's the deal. The parents are being charged, which is the new thing about this. Okay, we know about the shooting and all that. But the parents and the other part of this, which we covered this last week, I would have talked about it more in depth because the parents went on the run for a little bit and they had to be found. And of course, their attorney was saying they were going to turn themselves in. They had withdrawn $4,000. They turned off their phones and nobody could contact them. But their attorney says, oh, they were going to turn themselves in. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So interesting. Interesting.
They were on their way to Canada or Mexico or somewhere. They getting out of here.
Yeah. So
interesting. And when I do my and I know we're running out of time here. When I do my gun safety class, one of the things I emphasize is parents, you are responsible for your children, your underage children. If they get a hold of a weapon, or if you provide for them a weapon like these two did, and they do something with it, you're going to be held accountable. So I really emphasize that with parents because you might think I have a gun laying around the house, or in their case, I'm gonna give my son a gun. It's pretty cool to do, and they go do something with it. Yep. So
maybe they'll get Soaring Eagles. We'll have to do a Soaring Eagles class. Maybe they'll send them to y'all, put them on probation, and send them to Soaring Eagles.
Well, they need to. They definitely need to know because what they did was ridiculous.
One quick note before I hit my loyalty so we can get out of here. Supreme Court, of course, they heard from both sides on the Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks, but that impacts also the Texas law of 6 weeks. And the big picture, they both impact Roe v. Wade. And so that's what the Supreme Court is deciding now on how they will weigh in. That verdict won't come out. The decision won't come out until June or July of next year. So in the meantime, you'll hear a lot about that. So that's a hot one for our country. All right. And now as I go for our leadership lesson, which I'll cover in 30 seconds today, which I would have covered in 2 minutes, but I'll do it in 30 seconds because our time is out. We're going to talk about loyalty. And I want to talk about loyalty in the sense of the fact that it is, in fact, a two-way street. Leaders have a responsibility of loyalty to those who follow them, and the followers have a responsibility to those who are responsible for them, the leaders. And this a prime case is the one of Reality Winner, who worked for the NSA. I believe it was some top secret agency, national security agency. I believe they're in our government capital. And she was accused of espionage after she took some information that she found out about Trump and his campaign, and she dropped the information into the mail to a local TV/radio station. And next day, FBI shows up and they arrested her and they charged her with espionage. On 60 Minutes, they were profiling the fact that she spent 3 years, I believe, in confinement and how terrible life was. She thought about committing suicide and all those things. And so what I want to highlight is the fact that what she did, of course, was in fact a bad thing, not necessarily treason as they try to make it out to be, but however, you have a responsibility as the follower to your leaders when you find something wrong to elevate that. Sure, you're saying, but I think they might be in on it. If you don't know that, you have that responsibility. It's different if I know that the leader is in on it, yet you've got other avenues that you can use then to highlight this thing, but you have to be, that's what loyalty is. It's saying, I'm as loyal to my leaders as they are to me. So I give them an opportunity to right the wrongs. And so think about that, America. We got to give, leaders have to have the responsibility of righting wrongs. And if they don't right the wrongs, then they are in fact wrong. But you can't be wrong speculating that they might be. Okay. So that's what loyalty means. Let's be loyal. All right. So Wayne, we're out with you.
Awesome, man. Well, that's it for our show today, you guys. Thanks for coming out, checking us out. We'll be back next week with our pre-Christmas show. And so you can go to the comment section, our GoFundMe link, and you can make a donation there, or go to Erase Racist Facebook page or eraseraces.com and just click on the donate on any of these platforms. And though it might not direct you to the GoFundMe, the money does go into the same pot. So we appreciate you guys, and we look forward to seeing you next week on our pre-Christmas show on the WayneCarlen Show. Peace, love,